Our guest for today is Simone Cuttino. She's the resident choreographer for Columbia Classical Ballet and Palmetto Conservatory of Dance. And I want to start today by congratulating on your 25th anniversary with Columbia Classical Ballet.
Thank you so much.
And I think it's only fitting that I start there, kind of just asking you, how did your journey with the company begin?
So the short version is that I walked in the door one day and I'm still here. That's the really short.
25 years later,
it was not this door. It was down the street, not even a mile.
Right.
The old studio.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I realized actually, I didn't even think about the 25 years that much until I walked to the Koger Center a little bit earlier, and I realized this time in October when we go to Cinderella, I felt like, oh my gosh, I walked up to the Koger Center 25 years ago as a dancer with the company. So, but yeah, I had just come, I came here from Germany in 1996, straight from dancing, but I was also pregnant with my first daughter. And it was a little bittersweet in the sense of, so exciting to be living on a new continent, starting a family and all that fun stuff, but also bitter on the side of, I knew that my theater career, dancing professionally, was over, which I probably, if we had stayed there, would have done a few more, 5, 7, who knows how many years, and I didn't expect that to continue here in any way. So then in 1998, after recommendations from several people, I was just looking for a class to take for myself to get back in shape a little bit, because I had stopped dancing cold turkey, and I was like, oh, if I can just go to adult class or something so I can get in shape. And that's how I ended up one day at Radenko's studio.
You have been involved in productions like Wizard of Oz and currently working in Cinderella, which is not the first or the second time that it's been done. What is your process when creating such stories?
Well, with the first ones I did with Oz, Robin Hood, Aladdin, and with Cowboys, Maleficent, Cowboys and the Curse of Sleeping Beauty, there was not like an existing well-known ballet before.
Right.
And if there was, I didn't know about it.
Right.
With Cinderella, yes, there is a ballet and a score, but that does not influence me. Especially with Cinderella, it's such an old fairy tale. It goes back so many hundreds of years. So I always start reading as much as I can. I research what I can. I watch, is there a movie? Is there a new movie? Is there a TV? Is there a soundtrack?
Right.
Is there more music that was written for this story? And so especially in Cinderella, yes. So the original score didn't give me enough of the mood, of just a different vibe, just a different take on something that's more timeless and is more newer and more warm, and describes more of the other characters. I take more time for the parents to explain who her parents were. I want to give the prince a little bit more of a human nature than just being Prince Charming and here I come and I lift you and So, but the creation always starts with the story and the music. Like, I need to know, what is the history of the story? Even from my childhood. Cinderella, what movie did I watch when I was a kid?
Right.
Those were those Eastern European, Czechoslovakian big, fairy tale movies that I grew up with. So those are totally different. I knew nothing about Disney. Nothing. Not a lot of happy endings in the olden days, right? Very brutal. So you have to adjust it. I mean, if you have so many years of history with something to go from, and then I'm like, what do I want to tell? What do I want to show? From this movie, I get one idea. From this ballet, I get one idea, and just pick like your flowers, like a bouquet of all the things I want to show. Like Robin Hood was completely based on the Kevin Costner movie.
Okay.
That just blew me away. And the music in it, I used it too. Same with Maleficent. That movie has to be a ballet for me. If there is a strong romance and gut-wrenching drama, I can make a ballet out of it. No question asked. For sure. So then when I have the my notes of what my story is going to be, then I really write the scenes. I start writing the scenes. It has to start with this. Da 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 da. Then I start listening to music. A lot of music, because if I don't hear what I want to tell, I can't do it. So I listen to all these pieces, and I'll see, I'm looking for a fight scene. So I'll look at everything that sounds like a fight. And eventually I'll eliminate until I'm like, that's the one. And then once I have those pieces of music, I make sure that they flow together. Right? That they, kind of don't, and then I start to listen to this one piece. And to me, visually, I see it. Like here, I'm like, oh, that's 5 couples. Oh, circle. And now a diagonal or something.
Right.
I know what the flow is and what the picture is. And once I have that, then I break it down. 8 counts. This section, 8 counts. I really very mathematical almost go, because if I only have to do 2 8s, then I get up and I'm like, oh,
here. Yeah.
I hear this and I hear this, and that's the easiest part. The actual steps at the end, that's the easiest part of it all. So I have to first set that whole, I have to paint the picture.
Right.
Before I pick up the brush. Yeah. So.
The artistic process, for sure.
Yeah, it takes the longest time. Like I typically give myself 3 months at least. If I know it's a new ballet, probably even more time. But even for Cinderella, even because it was existing, but I knew it was a different cast, a different opportunities coming, some things that I couldn't do. I started early July to work on it before I came to the company, late August?
Right, yes. And the production being October.
In October, exactly. Yeah.
With the productions that you've done so far for the company and the school, which ones hold a special place in your heart?
Well, that's like asking who's your favorite child, So
I mean, you can pick many.
Yeah, no, you can't pick one. I think different ones for different reasons. Romeo and Juliet, for sure, because it's something that Radenko just told me. He said, do Romeo and Juliet. I was like, no. Because, I have so much respect for that.
Right.
But it was the first ballet that I got to do as a young dancer in the company that I stayed with in Germany.
Wow.
And it had such an impact on me. I mean, I knew the music before, but I had never been on stage when Mercutio dies. I cried every time, like it was just so overwhelming, the whole experience of it. So then to be so honored to be able to choreograph the whole ballet was, that's just more than you could ever hope for in your life. And I didn't adapt any of that, of course. I was like, because you don't, so that one for sure will always stay with me, and hopefully one day that would be amazing to do it again. And then Bolero, just because of that amazing experience that we had with the dancers and that process of putting that together. And we had a lot of rehearsal time. Oftentimes in the past, I was always very rushed to do things because we did a lot of things in the same time and whatever. And it was always like, yeah, you don't have a lot of time for this. But I was so grateful that we had a lot of time, and it developed into something that was so much more than I ever expected. And that had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with just what happened.
Yeah.
So that one for sure. And then I think Cinderella is probably next because it just has everything. It's such a dream of a production because it has the drama and the sadness and the funny and the romance. It just has something of everything that you want to just put out there and hopefully people love.
Yeah, I was actually telling, as we were doing the marketing for the production, this is a Cinderella that, yes, it is for kids, but it is for adults as well. It holds a good amount of both the magic and the realness of the story. So
Thank you. Yes,
well,
that's always
thank you.
my goal to to keep it real.
Mhm.
It's very important, and that's also a challenge because it's easy to just keep dancing to the music,
Yeah.
just do it. But to have a moment where you just stop dancing and to have dancers that are able to just act a scene out that has nothing to do with pirouettes or something, but just to touch the people, because like I said, like if I'm not touched by the music, I'm not using it. If I'm
Right.
not touched by the story, you're not gonna have me do a ballet about it. So to be able to project that emotion, to draw people in and have them be really involved and
Right.
want to see more of it
Absolutely.
and have that expectation. If we go there, we're getting something we're not getting anywhere else.
That's true.
That would be perfect.
What aspects of that character, the main character of Cinderella, did you want to emphasize in this particular show?
Yes. So, not just Cinderella, but many of my female lead roles, I look for strong women. It's how I grew up, with strong women. I love real people. Like, there are some ballets that have characters that are not even real humans. So I love to work with that could be someone that's a real person.
Right.
But if I look back at, even Dorothy, but Maid Marian and Jasmine and Aladdin, and now Cinderella, they're all very strong-willed a little bit, but Cinderella has it all. She is broken and sad, but she is kind and kind of accepting, not even knowing why, but it's just her fate. Like she's just human, and she's not fighting it. But then the next minute she can be, or the next moment she can be energetic and feisty and strong, and not really knowing what to do with it. But it's in her, but it's not really coming out. And then when she goes to the ball, she is completely composed. She's absolutely the most beautiful thing and superior and elegant that you've ever seen. So none of those earlier things really come through. She's just a complete, I don't even know, creature of that just blows you away. So she really touches on everything you could be as a human or a woman or whatever. All the sides, strong, weak, sad, feisty, all of them. So that's why it's fascinating to me. And of course, then to show that in each time she dances, I have to bring that into the movement, of course, so that's why I think hopefully it's also a very challenging role to dance, because you can't just be one person through the ballet. You have to be 3, 4, 5 different people in one role. So
on that same note, what are one of those scenes? You've mentioned some with Cinderella, but what scenes have been for you the most challenging and or the most inspiring while creating this particular time?
Well, I think bringing into the story more of her real mother, definitely is something I wanted, because you can't really show truly why someone's sad if you don't show them what about.
Yeah.
And just because we kind of know from the old story, the fairy tales, and when you read it or when you see it in the movie, okay, the mom died. Big whoop,
Right.
So I really didn't want that to just be like a side thought, like an afterthought or a side thing. So bringing that in was a challenge. So I kind of cut the fairy godmother a little bit, because I'm like, no, it should be the mom. Like the mom maybe brings fairies,
Right.
and they might just be good thoughts, or they might just be strength to support Cinderella. But I didn't want any non-real big influence into it. So changing that a little bit was probably a challenge, but one that I really like.
Well, it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because in the same process of talking to adults about the show, one of our moms was telling me, so how about the fairy godmother? And I was like, well, I'm not going to tell you much about the show before you go and see it, but you haven't really thought about the mom after she died of being her fairy godmother. That's how so many people deal with grief today, outside of even just speaking about ballet. So it's a great
And
sense of the story.
Actually, going back when I was doing my research
Mhm.
and reading a lot about the old,
Mhm.
there were a lot of fairy tales that were super old, and then they kind of ended up in the Brothers Grimm hands,
Right.
and then it became what most people know. It wasn't necessarily created by them, but they just took all these fairy tales and rewrote them a lot. But there are several times when I read actually that the thought was that the vision or that appearance of the fairy godmother was actually the mom. So I felt good about using that. I was like, see, it's right there. I can do it. It was like a permission slip for me to say, yes, it is the mom, and her thinking about it. Because, of course, I think about my grandmother sometimes and think about what she would say. I'm like, yeah, right. You have those people back here, what they would say. So that's how they live on. That is how they live on, and that's what we're doing here.
Have you had any memorable moments in rehearsal that you're like, that is one that I'll never forget so far?
Oh gosh. Yeah, so many. I mean, to me, honestly, what I look for, yes, I always have to look for that. Are you doing the right technique? Are you being together and whatever? But I sometimes that's why I'm off. I don't like to sit in front.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be in the back and just be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
And I love those moments when I see how a dancer is getting it, and they're like all of a sudden either they're digging deep inside to see what they can add to this role, and maybe something that I didn't even think about. But especially with with lead roles, I give them very much freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very strict with group. You're only doing what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
Like not even that finger I give you. As you
probably
as
you know, should be with forward.
But with leads, I really give a lot of freedom. Like make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
No one has done this before you, like the way you're gonna do it. So especially the family, the mom, the sisters, the dad, everyone that has that role should take it upon themselves to just look inside you and expression wise or move wise. Like the sisters, I'm pretty sure I could cast the sisters every time with someone else. It would be a totally different performance every time. And that's fantastic. And those are my favorite moments when I see someone just create and not just execute.
Right.
But create on top of the creation, on top, and those layers just keep coming. And then it comes between the dancers. And what are we going to do back here? And that's the best. Those are the best moments.
Yeah. And you've talked about this already, but in this particular production, how have you incorporated the strengths of the dancers? Not just speaking about the leads, but we've talked about the challenges of the amount of dancers you have this time.
Right.
How have you incorporated those strengths in this production of Cinderella?
Yeah, I mean, again, with the leads, you have to make sure that, for example, in this one, the family that we talked about, you have to be impeccable technique-wise. You have to be a strong dancer. You have to be able to act, know when to put in the humor, when to use the drama, when to just don't. So it's a combination of confidence and experience and just knowing yourself and feeling free to blossom in that role. So that's the strength for sure, and we need that for those roles. But even with the core, like I feel like working on the fairies, the village is. So I can say, okay, in the village, you can come out with your acting a little bit more, with your playfulness and with your sassiness a little bit more. But when we get to fairies, we have to be very controlled. That's when you go back to the basics of your technique. Everything needs to look together and put together. We can't, We don't want to know what kind of fairy you are.
Right. Correct.
And, you know, no, you're just one of the fairies.
Mhm.
And in the palace, maybe it's a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
Because now, yes, we have to be, you know, doing a lot of technique, a lot of hard dancing, which is meant to be impressive,
Correct.
right? Because now we're like at that prince level, we're in the
Mhm.
palace, and you know, so you don't have village dancing in the palace, right?
Right.
And some of you are forgetting, so I need to say that next week actually, because they're still acting like they're in
Noted.
the village. So you have to be very strict about, oh, okay, so I'm not that anymore. Now I'm this, and so really knowing what to do when, and
Mhm.
having the control to, with the music, the movement, the scene, what's your purpose right
Mhm.
there? What is your purpose? You know, the Tremaines are already funny. You don't have to be funny.
Right.
You know your place.
Correct.
That's the strength we need to look for most of the time.
What do you expect that the audience says? What is this one thing that you would hope that at least one person in the audience lives from the performance with?
Oh, absolutely. That, like I said before, that they're surprised.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, if it's someone that has never been to a ballet,
Right.
I want them to say, "Oh, I'm definitely coming back." If it's someone that has been to ballet, but they're like, "I'm only here because, you know, I
Yeah.
had to," or whatever, change their minds. Change their minds about ballet, and come back with the expectations again that they will find something that they can't find anywhere else. Not only visually, but emotionally, that we can draw them in.
Mm-hmm.
That someone felt like, oh, I'm touched.
Right.
Yeah, that's the best.